Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the November 12th Policy Committee meeting. For introductions, I want to take this moment to introduce our incoming student representative, Avery Ciato. So welcome, Avery. You're in good hands with the outgoing Rachel Marciano, student representative, so thank you both for coming to the meeting tonight. Welcome, Mrs. McMenamin, to the meeting as our teacher representative. Julia, welcome, and we are on this side of the table, joined by Dr. Stevenson, who is the administrative liaison to policy. Dr. Stevenson, do you have any administrative remarks to share with us this evening?
Good evening. So we will tonight, our policies are mostly second reads. Policy 233, suspension expulsion, policy 113.1, discipline of students with disabilities, which is a repeal, and policy 249, anti-bullying. All of these were done in accordance with our work of a solicitor approved by our October regular meeting, and all of these will, while we are considering for second reading approval, will circle back at some particular point, because all of them, with the work that we're doing for our ARs, with the work for administrators to support these conversations, will come back in future conversations. Thank you.
Okay, terrific, thank you. And at this point, we'll move into public comment. Is there any public comment this evening? Good evening, Mrs. McNicholas. You know what, actually, yeah, if you just push the green button, it'll go on. There you go.
You got
And then just have a seat and speak into the microphone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm Chris McNicholas, 326 Highland Lane in Bryn Mawr. Up.
Pull it a little closer to you. How's that, Chris? Yeah, perfect.
Good.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I'm here tonight because back in last spring, Mr. Batchelor recommended that I meet with Dr. Stevenson about the anti-bullying policy, and we met, and then it went to the solicitor. So I had no idea how long that process was going to take. I'm glad to see that it's now, and it was quicker than I thought. It looks great. Everything about it looks great. I'm so happy to see it because I read over it last year, and it was long overdue, especially in compared to the districts, some of the districts around us. One of my concerns that still remains is the definition of bullying looks great. My concern is where it says which occurs in a school setting, and then when you read the school setting, these are great school settings. Cyberbullying doesn't happen in school. I can tell you that firsthand. And I think that this leads, this lends to the problem that when you are in school and kids want to report it, or a victim wants to report it, they're met with sometimes being told by administrators or teachers or others that, well, if it didn't happen at school, so there's probably not a lot we at school could do. That's just the nature of the beast. But as I said, that's my biggest concern with this right now, is that cyberbullying happens at home. It happens on Sunday nights. It happens on Saturday nights. I don't think that the way this is worded, where it says, wherever school has jurisdiction, I don't think school has jurisdiction over kids being at home. So that was my biggest concern, and I know that you guys can address me here, but I hope with this second reading that maybe something can come from this, because I still think this is I'm not going to be able to say it, ambiguous. And I don't think it's going to solve the problem. We have kids going in to report it, and you look at this, and obviously I don't think bullies will be reading our policies, but parents of bullies could, and you read this and you say, oh, well, it didn't happen at school, so, and then you have to take it up with law enforcement, and I don't know. I just wanted to bring that concern to it, but I do thank you for all of their work, and thank you for keeping me up to date that, it was coming to the second reading, so thank you.
Thank you. And I think we did have a pretty robust discussion, Dr.
Yeah.
Stevenson,
So
right,
I
last
just wanted
month?
to clarify that as the legitimate concern, the question was asked about what is the definition between school-related and non-school-related. To address the audience question, the answer of that is that the revision of this does allow for to address the issues of cyberbullying, particularly that is school-related. So what has changed in this is that it allows anything that has impact in the school setting. So in other words, if a student has been cyberbullied and it relates to two students who are related to school, then it does have jurisdiction for the school, and that where the particular piece comes. Where this becomes clear for parents and for members of the community is when this is then fleshed out in the AR, which is a part of the sub work that we're doing now.
Right. I remember last month we were talking about how, and there was language added in, or in any other location where the district has jurisdiction over a student's conduct, specifically because if cyberbullying does take place outside of a school setting and the impact of that takes place, carries through to a school setting, the school then does have jurisdiction to deal with it, because that could manifest itself in a classroom. It could manifest itself, the impact of that could manifest itself in all of these other places, which then allows for the school district to have jurisdiction over dealing with it. Is that accurate, Dr. Stevenson?
That is correct.
So,
And again, I wanted to reemphasize that we will have more specific steps in that when the AR is completed.
right, okay. Does anybody else have, well, that is public comment, responding to that. I'm losing my place where we are, but in terms of public comment, I assume since no one else is out there, there is no more public comment, and we'll move into the approval of minutes before we actually address that policy for its second read further down in the agenda. So, approval of minutes, committee, is everybody good with the minutes from last month? Yes, I'm getting head nods? Okay, terrific. So then let's formally move into the first item on our agenda for tonight, which is policy 113.1, discipline of students with disabilities. It's on its second read for repeal. Dr. Stevenson?
Yes, this is for repeal. This was brought forth last month, and because it was incorporated into policy and administrative regulation 233. Therefore, we are asking that we approve this to move forward to the full board for a second read in the November regular business meeting.
Okay, terrific, thank you. So, just take a quick survey around the table here. Does anybody have any concerns, about moving this policy on for a second read next week? No? Nope. Okay, so that is ready to go before the full board next Tuesday. And we will move into the next item on the agenda, which is policy 233, suspension and expulsion. Dr. Stevenson?
Yes, this too is a policy for a second read, 233. We ask that the board, there were no changes from last month, so therefore we're asking that the board move forward with this policy to the November regular business meeting for approval for second read.
Okay, terrific. Committee, is everybody on board to move this forward?
I don't have a problem moving forward, but I did have a question, and it related to the AR, and it was sort of related to a question I brought up earlier. And it's under due process requirements for informal hearing, which is on the first page, and it's toward the bottom, and it's number 4. It says, no retained attorneys will be permitted to participate in the hearing. Does that mean I can bring a non-retained attorney into the hearing?
You can't, and for informal hearings, you mean? That's not, informal hearings don't include the lawyer, that's just the parents.
Do you want to remove retained then? Because that's how I read it. I'm thinking, I can bring in my neighbor, I can bring in my uncle. Do you see where I'm talking about?
I see what you're talking about. I will, our solicitor's not here, I'm gonna make notes of that. And
Okay.
as the liaison, I don't see a problem with it, but I wanna just make sure that that's not something that the school code requires or anything. If that's the case, then what I will do is communicate with the committee beforehand. If it's different from, based on the committee's approval, whatever the committee approves, then I will communicate. So therefore, at the board meeting, you will have that right to have that communication.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens.
Thank you.
So, go ahead, Chuck. My question would be, who else would be allowed there? Is anybody else allowed there, such as advocate or anything like that, or is it just a closed?
So students are, as it says in number 2, they can have, produce witnesses to speak, so that in those cases, in those informal hearings, they can bring someone who has some knowledge or association with what is being suspended. So it's a closed, informal hearing between the administrators and the parents at that particular point. So it wouldn't be a character witness or anything like that.
May just be somebody that witnessed what had
Someone who, they have a right to bring someone to, who has knowledge or association with that, yes.
Okay.
Lydia?
So this may totally be nitpicking, but if you say no lawyers can come, what if the parents are lawyers?
Well, the parents are not acting in that role.
Right, but
they're-
that's why retained lawyers. Like, if the parent's a lawyer, they might be, am I allowed to come?
Well, I mean.
Just, I know
mean,
it sounds nitpicky, but,
I mean, in those cases, we go under the guise that the parents, we don't quarantine based on their occupational situation. We just base it on their status as parents.
Is there any other time when it would not be an accompaniment of a witness and/or a parent and/or a guardian?
You mean, would it be just the student?
Anyone beyond that? I'm just trying to find
Only
language
time that would be is when there's a formal hearing, where there is, the board or the superintendent may allow someone to speak, to accompany, to speak on their behalf. And it's usually when it's at the expulsion level, when that's allowed, because that's up to the jurisdiction of the board to allow someone to speak.
But at the informal?
At the informal, no.
It's really just parents, guardians, witnesses?
Yes.
So if we had a big issue with number 4, we could work that in.
Yeah, I will consult and get that back to you on that.
Okay.
Okay, so the policy can move forward, and even if there's a little hiccup with the AR, we don't have to approve it, and we generally don't post it immediately, so that gives Dr. Stevenson a little time. Rachel, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one thing about the AR. I'm not sure, I could be completely wrong, but it's the back page, under a formal hearing, these numbered points. Number 2, should there be an apostrophe after days? Do you see what I'm talking about?
There is an apostrophe.
It says at least 3 days notice.
There is,
Number 2.
yeah, isn't there? There's an apostrophe behind days. Don't I see one?
There is one. She's
There should not
asking
be.
if there shouldn't be.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
and I'm not
Is that
going to be
right?
in.
It is right.
It's right. I was going to.
McMenamin.
The teacher representative, she's taking a swig right now. We can't get a teacher to weigh in.
Didn't seem right to me. Oh, good.
My bad.
Better to ask than not to ask.
Sorry about that.
I didn't think it was right.
All right, so we have
blame
two issues with the AR, which will not hold up our moving this policy forward to next week's board meeting, and I have confidence that Dr. Stevenson will be able to vet those 2 questions and get them ready for us, if not by Tuesday, shortly thereafter. So with that, thank you, everybody, for your input on that, and let's move on to the final item on our agenda, which is Policy 249, anti-bullying.
So policy 249 is policy that has to be reviewed every 3 years. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we included is the updating on the language for cyberbullying. And so therefore, it was moved forward in the first read, and we're asking that it be approved for the second read as well in the November regular business meeting.
Okay, terrific. So again, going around the table, starting with our students, do you have any issues with moving this forward next week? No, Avery? Not yet, right? Rachel? Mrs. McMenamin? Julia?
I have the same issue I picked up that Chris picked up. And I think, based on our discussion today, you affirmed what we discussed last time. We are all on the same page, but the way it is written, I can bully someone, cyberbully someone. My suggestion, I wonder if it would work to say, under that first paragraph of bullying, under definitions, where it says, instead of saying which occurs in a school setting, can you say which may occur in a school setting? Because I believe I recall the discussion was if it interferes in school, then it doesn't matter where it occurs, what the setting is, and that could include cyber.
You are correct. That if it has anything that has impact in school, that's a major shift in the conversation, where before it was again, this is constantly evolving when we talk about social media. And so at one time it was that if it happened in a person's home, regardless of their students, then it becomes an outside piece. The language is now changing where if it has impact, meaning that we have two students in the same school who are, and one student, while it happened at school, towards another school, if it has impact running the school, impact meaning that because they're both school students, if a student brings that to attention, that we have an obligation to follow up on it.
Did you hear what I'm saying, though, about?
Yes, but I forgot
defining
what
the
you,
school setting,
but I need
think-
you to restate what you're
Okay,
saying.
what I'm saying is.
Which may,
by
is it
defi-
which may occur in?
Which may occur in a school setting.
Julia, where are you on? for that?
Under definitions, the
Uh-huh.
first paragraph of bullying, and it's the second line, and in the middle of that sentence, it says, which occurs in a school setting. And I'm suggesting which may occur in a school setting.
I guess just to follow up on that, are we concerned about the impact of the student that's being cyberbullied, regardless of where that's happening?
Yes, that's the whole purpose of this.
So it
Yes.
could be, I understand that. Now, it could be, this could happen, I'm out having a pizza someplace and somebody cyberbullies me there, and it's going to impact me when I come into the school. So regardless of where it happens, it's having an impact on me, which has an impact on my education in the school. So I think we're missing that piece, and I think
No.
that's what was brought up here. And I know it might be in the ER, but if I'm a parent trying to find out what to do, I'm not gonna look at it, and I'm not gonna look at it. I'm gonna look at the policy. So it needs to be someplace in the policy. If my child comes home and I'm worried about them, and it's going to impact not only their school life, but their real life, okay? And I don't see the AR, I don't know what to do.
Well, if
And I
you-
don't, and I have all these resources at the school that we're putting in place.
Mr. Manning, I think if you look at the whole, below, where it says school setting, I think that, while we,
It's not a school setting though.
but I'm saying.
It's what Dr. Stevenson, forgive me for a sec, is, it says which occurs in a school setting, right? And then school setting is defined below to include any setting, where the district has jurisdiction over a student's conduct, and when you come
No,
into
but
school.
You're missing that though. No, that's not
And then-
entirely what I'm saying. My question is, are we concerned about our student that's being cyberbullied? Then we need to take action against that, not to relegate it to only things that we have control of that are within our schools, unless it's illegal for us to do that. So if it's legal for us to do it, then I think as a parent, we should be able to come to
So-
the school and say, this happened during vacation. This happened in the middle of the night. This happened nowhere near the school.
So let me play a little, let's play this
Right.
out a little bit, okay? So let's say you have two students.
No, okay, you can have two students, but it doesn't have to be two students. It could be a student from another school, it could be somebody who graduated, it could be somebody out there
But-
in
but
cyberspace that's bullying one of our students. And I think what and I'm just adding this because that's what I'm hearing a member of the audience saying, it's how are we protecting our students from cyberbullying, not from other students
Well,
who are cyberbullying.
Mr. Manning, if we have a student who comes to us and they're cyberbullied
By anybody, we'll say.
by anyone,
Yeah.
then we don't have the jurisdiction if there was a student or an adult or someone else who outside of the purview of the local parente of the school district, then we would have the obligation in the sense because we are to support them to help direct to the right jurisdiction, which would be law enforcement or whatever organization to address that.
Well,
But if we have,
That
let
should be
me
in the
just finish,
policy.
please.
I agree with you, though.
So if we have a student in TE, we cannot sanction that student. What we can do is help address it either with the other school district or with the local enforcement to do that. If we have students, both who are students within the district, then that we have that local parente piece of it.
I do understand that, but what I'm saying is we're not addressing the student that's being cyberbullied if it's coming from without. Now, what I'm saying is that child who we're concerned about and the cyberbullying is impacting their school life, their life, okay? Even if we have it in here that they're being cyberbullied by someone that's not within our jurisdiction, then what are they going to do? Because its parents don't know what to do.
Okay, but I'm not sure that our policies are designed to,
Well, if it's a cyberbullying policy,
oh, wait, it's not a it's an anti-bullying policy
Oh,
for students in our district.
and
So
they're being
this,
bullied.
right, so if a student if there are 4 students, 10 students, 2 students in our district who are the victims of bullying from other students in our district,
Right.
then this policy applies, okay? And for those students, if they're being bullied, and they are being bullied in a school setting, and the school setting is defined to include no matter essentially where the bullying between these two,
I'm
hold
on
on.
board with all this.
Wait, wait.
I'm on board with all that, except I'm saying we're missing the part about it. We're not really, then maybe we need to address it in another policy about, specifically about cyberbullying and the effects that it's having on the kids that we're here to protect. Because there's a chance you're going to be bullied by another student, but there's a chance you're going to be bullied by
But we
somebody
don't,
else.
I think what Dr. Stevenson is saying is we don't have the
Well, if you have
juris,
local parenti,
But
you
what
have
I
the
would-
same
I would-
authority as a parent,
Well,
and as a parent, I could then
what I
go
would,
to the
and what I would
police.
say, Mr. Madden, is,
Right.
as speaking as in the role of a principal, that anytime someone, whether it was a student or a parent, came forth with being bullied or a situation, any situation that we involve something outside, we involve, depending on the situation, we've involved our social workers, we've involved our counselors as internal to help with, depending on the situation, or in the cases that could lead to possible criminal, that directly, we have a great relationship with the police department, Radnor Township Police, and for consultation. At sometimes, they would consult us and give us redirection, but at no point would I say, and I can speak for myself, but I think I speak for my colleagues at my level to say that that is something that should not, that should be passed off. There would be
I
an
understand,
opportunity for assistance
I
with
do
that.
understand that, but what I'm saying is, if one of our students is cyberbullied, I think it would be a great idea to have them, give them the ability to bring it forward, and then you can hand it off to whomever you want to, and you could go to the police, you
but they
could go to whomever.
they can.
Is it in here? No,
Well,
it's not in here,
Chuck,
though.
is what you're asking, let me just see if I understand what you're saying, is that okay? Because
Yeah, sure, go
I
ahead.
might, maybe I'm the only one who's confused and I want to be clear. So is your concern that if there is a student who is being cyberbullied,
Correct.
you're concerned that that student has no opportunity to bring forth the incident of cyberbullying to a school official?
No, my concern is,
Okay.
as a parent, and I'm looking at, okay, my child is being cyberbullied, and I'm looking into the anti-bullying piece, and it comes in here, and it has to happen on someplace that's sanctioned by the district, okay, interfering with my student's education. It just doesn't seem to me as if it's a place where I'm going to go to the school for help.
Are you concerned that the parents that the policy isn't written in a way that's clear enough for
not.
parents to understand? Is that what your question is?
The parent wouldn't go to, well.
Because
would
there
they-
are the handbooks, and I
but-
think maybe.
No, but.
So can I just say, if you look at the first sentence of the guideline, the guideline says the board encourages students who have been bullied to promptly report all incidents in accordance with the procedures outlined in the A-reg. We can have conversations about the A-reg, about what is about those outside, but if a kid, a student, reports that, our obligation is to help address it regardless. Because if a student comes forth and said, I've been cyberbullied, we won't know what type of cyberbullying that is. So it is our obligation as administrators to investigate and to find out what those things are.
So then why are we restricting it to when we're saying that it should be school setting and things like that? In other words, what I'm saying is, if you're being cyberbullied, just let's open it up and say, if one of our students is being cyberbullied, bring it to us and we'll handle it. And if it's an internal piece with a student to student that are both ours, we can handle that. If it's our student and somebody else, we can also handle that through the people that we have. And if we can't do it, then we can hand it off to the police. So really what I'm saying is, when somebody's being cyberbullied, they just need a place to go to, and it should be us, if we're concerned about our students. That's basically all I have. Does anybody else see my point, or am I missing the point?
Do you have any thoughts on
Not
what you would like to
really,
see
not too
here,
often.
in here, that would cover your concerns?
Now, my concern really.
I mean, I got it.
I just somehow want it opened up that if I'm a parent and my son or daughter comes to me and says, Dad, I'm being cyberbullied by someone, okay? And I don't know who it is, because sometimes that's coming in from we don't know where. I would just like to go to the school that my son or daughter would be in, because we have a network of support within our school. And if you've ever been associated with anybody that's been cyberbullied, they don't know what to do and where to go. And we do. We have psychologists, we have social workers, we have all of this.
What if under purpose, there was a sense, and I'm not wordsmithing at all, but it said something to the effect of, we do encourage students to come forward, and, we're committed to helping any student in any bullying
Cyberbullying,
situation,
yeah.
inside or
I
outside
mean,
of
that
the
is
school.
the top guideline, that the board encourages students who have been bullied to promptly report such incidents in accordance with procedures outlined in the accompanying administrative regulation. That's
Right.
the top guideline.
So what I'm adding is, that we are committed to the health and well-being of all students in all situations, again.
I think
Not my
I think it's
wordsmithing, but-
because the cyberbullying is just something that bullying normally does happen when there could be other people around, or it could be within a school, or it could be a setting where if I'm being bullied, I know who's bullying me. Cyberbullying, I don't know that. So maybe if we just add the cyber piece at the beginning of that,
Well-
bullying or cyberbullying.
Let's see what the consensus is here, given that our time is almost up, because we could potentially hold this over for one more policy committee meeting, and flush it out with our solicitor and administration, or we can move this along and, everybody could take another look at it before the business meeting, and then if you have concerns about it come next Tuesday, we could, you can pull it and not pass it at that point. So, what would this committee like to do about this?
How would you feel about the guideline getting moved up to the front? Would that,
I just want somebody who's reading it to know what to do. And what I heard from the audience, and I really didn't have many thoughts on this whatsoever coming in here. I'm just playing off of what I heard someone tell me that the issues are. That, yeah, we need to address it, and it's something that's going to get more and more intense as we go. So, yeah, sure. And the other piece, this is my last policy meeting, so this is something that I won't have any impact on it after it leaves this. You can come back.
So why don't we do this, just in the interest of time? Do you think it's, let's see, Lydia, Julia, Mrs. McMenamin, we could hold this and discuss it again next month. Or actually, even if we move it forward on Tuesday, you can pull it and not want to pass it, which would bring it back to, are you
Can you
comfortable
change
having
it?
the full board look at it next Tuesday? If the change could potentially be substantive, and if that's the case, it wouldn't make it to
Probably
next
come
week
back.
anyway. So, Chuck, you seem to have the strongest feelings about it, so,
Why don't we just hold it, because, hash it out, if there's a way to put that language in there that, kind of satisfies everyone, rather than take the full board's attention to something that I
Okay.
think we do want to address
Okay.
here. We just need to put our heads
And
together.
Julia, do you feel the same?
Yes, I support you.
Okay.
Very good.
So I guess this is not moving on next week. We'll revisit it in December. And,
Would there be an opportunity for people who have experiences to have some kind of, I know we used to put message boards up to what they would feel about this? Or how are we understanding
Well,
the need?
I think we don't have jurisdiction
No, I know
over
we
people
don't.
outside of the district. So all it would be satisfying a clarification on the fact that I do think there's quite a bit of language in here that says we care, we want to know about bullying, there's different avenues to report it, but something that makes it absolutely crystal clear.
Okay, very good.
Because we don't have jurisdiction over it. And maybe we want to even just say that, like, maybe we want to clarify that for people. Like this is covered in the school.
Well, we do have a process, like Dr. Stevenson said, we do have a process in place to support our kids. I'm just saying that it would be nice so that other people know that besides the people that are going through this.
Right.
Because when it begins to happen to you, your world begins to unravel. And you need somebody that
So,
is
and-
able to support you, that's all.
just
I'm good.
to remember, this policy has been revised considerably from what it was prior to coming before this committee. So if, it sounds like there's one particular concern remaining that will be discussed next month, and then from there, we'll see how that goes. But, thank you for your feedback, and, we'll hold this then for December. All right? So with that, we move into our final public comment of the evening. Does anybody have any? Mrs. McNicholas? Forgive me, I forgot to ask about new business, but is it safe to assume nobody has new business? Okay. Public comment then.
It'll be a last word and a question. Thank you for holding it. My question is, following up on what you said. So it's, because I went back and just reread the AR a couple times, and I don't see it yet in there. So am I to understand when you were saying, like, it'll be clearer in the AR for parents to know about it? Or did I just miss something in all of the wording in the AR? And is the AR going to be online? Because I know when I was looking for the policies last year, all I found was the bullying policy with no AR. So I guess that's did I miss something in this AR, or is?
You didn't miss anything. It's
Okay.
consistent with what I said, that the AR is something that we're working in an administrative team, and that will be brought forth in the spring.
Okay, so it'll be clearer more in the spring, is what you were saying? Because when I said what my concern was, and you said
It'll be
it'll become
consistent.
clearer and.
It'll be consistent with the policy when the policy is passed.
Okay, I'm just concerned, I understand, thank you, Chuck, for what you said. I'm still just concerned that the vagueness of school setting lends to kids being told, erroneously or not, and maybe that's a training thing on our end or whatever. If it didn't happen in school, there's probably not much we can do. And, could it happen? Yes, it absolutely can happen. It has happened. I think we all know, hearing different things, I can tell you personally. So that's what concerns me when it's that vague and it says in a school setting. So it sounds like you're all willing to pull it, and I very much appreciate that, because I don't want any other kids to have to, feel like they can't report it, they can't go to anyone because they're afraid, well, if it didn't happen at school, And I know that the kids aren't reading our policy, so it does get back to what you said. It's helpful for parents to be able to tell their kids this is the route, and, it doesn't always have to happen at school. So thank you for pulling
Okay.
it, and
Yep,
thank you for the work.
thank you. Okay, so with that, we will adjourn the meeting until next month. Thank you very much.